Welcome back to What Makes You Tick Best Bits. This is a wonderful moment from one of my favorite guests that we've ever had. He's become a fantastic friend of mine, Petro. It's Mike Petroskey. And he's just such a wonderful storyteller, entertainer, deep thinker, psychologist, and leader. But not to build him up too much, he's just a very grounded, down to earth, wonderful human being. And I love his take on what it means to be a good leader and how important it is to understand the psychology and to be able to rewire your own brain to be able to then improve the brains and minds and attitudes and behaviors of others. Because we don't just take people and then they stay as they are, they grow with us. And a lot of the job of leadership is understanding the mind so we can take down the walls and unleash the true potential of people. And a lot of that is about helping people think differently about their thinking. Enjoy this Best Bits episode. If you like it, we'll put a link in the show notes so you can follow the podcast. Every week on Wednesday, we release the main episode. Every Sunday, we release the Best Bits episode. Enjoy.
What makes you tick, Mike?
You know, I'm one of those people that's been really fortunate in his career to be surrounded by mentors, teachers, guides. And I guess this goes back into from school, people who took an interest in me and believed in me. And what makes me tick nowadays is the ability to share that with others, to do the same thing, to be a guide, to be a mentor, to be a coach, and to help people who were in, my place back then to get to where they want to be.
That's awesome. And when did you first start realizing that that was something that was important to you?
I think it's when I got my first job leading folks as an inside sales manager at a software company. We were a little startup, little engine that could and eventually accomplished the goal and had an exit. But I was part of the partner development team, and it's one of those classic, he's the top performer on the team. Let's make him a manager. Hey, why don't you just turn people into you? And it took a long time for me to understand that, like that process of what I needed to do as a manager was different than what I needed to do as a rep. So the difference between managing and leading. But it was during that experience of hiring, training, coaching, like bringing people from the non-tech world into the tech world, just like I came from college into the tech world, that I realized like that was actually my true calling. Grandma always said, I'm going to be either an actor or a teacher. And I guess in sales, you get a good hybrid of both of those, right? You got to put on the performance and do the thing, but also as a leader, be able to teach, coach, lead.
What were some of those things that you had to adjust to when you were going from being a really good salesperson to being a sales leader?
Recognizing that I am not like everybody else and everybody else is not like me. So I think, the classic area where you hear people go wrong is like trying to make other people just like them. And I think kind of flipping the script on that and recognizing that you have to understand the underlying motivations, the underlying psychology of those people and put it into a format, like create a format, a template, a process that works for everybody, like bending the needs of the business with also the needs of the people. I think that's where you get people to blossom and grow from an individual perspective. And like, it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to like genuinely want that for those people. And I've been fortunate that everybody that I've hired in my time has been people that I've been genuinely interested in. And that doesn't mean things like always work out, but like I hire people because I'm genuinely interested in them and believe that there's a there for them to grow and develop and become better than where they started today. And I think, I guess we'll get some hate mail on this, maybe not, that everybody that I have had the opportunity to lead is better now than they were when they started with me. And I think that's the metric, the litmus test, the old hot tub strip that you could use as a gauge on whether or not you did your job.
And was that something you were intentional about? Like, I want people to be better when they've left me than when they started?
Yeah, I think that's the vision that I've been able to paint with a lot of my teams is come with me. I've got some things to show you. Like, come on this journey. I've been here before. I've seen some things. I'd love to share those things with you. And I also want to know like what you know and what you can apply to this journey. And so we're trampling through the woods together. And I know a little bit about this plant over here and these berries. And oh, by the way, don't eat that over there. That's bad. And like mushrooms are poisonous. Let's not do that. But I'm also interested in connecting with people where they can also teach me about their experience in the wilderness and journeying through the mountains. And it's fun to have a companion. It's fun to have a team that you can go through that journey and experience together. Because at the end of it, like you the hottest fires forge the strongest steel. Like you've created something, and it's not necessarily always tangible. But I've got a Rolodex or whatever you call it on a phone book now of people that I can connect with and say, hey, it's been a moment. How you doing now? And generally, I'm doing so many great things. So yeah, that's what it's been like for me, I suppose.
And it's an interesting one. Because usually we talk about what you've learned from people who've led you, and we'll probably get to that later in the conversation. But you touched on something really interesting. What are some of the things that you've learned from the people who have been in the teams that you've led?
It's a great question. Edit this part out while I think about it. Right? What have I learned from some of the teams? One of the things that like when you've done what I've done a couple of times, like the the classic quote is right. You get older, but the bar always stays 21, right? Like the bar is always filled with the people who are at that age, and yet you get older. So for me, it's been really interesting to see the dynamics in culture and personality change as like the new generation has kind of come from school into the work world. I've learned a lot about many different cultural things that like I haven't considered. I'm kind of like out of touch from that aspect. Like I got off Facebook in 2012, which isn't like a, get off my lawn, I'm that old, but like, it's
Yeah.
like, I don't really like the direction this is going. I'm going to stop engaging with the social world. I'm on the LinkedIn and stuff, but I'm one of those lurker people, and I know I got to get better about that. But as far as like engaging in things, I value the one-to-one connection. I'd rather walk into the bar where everybody knows my name and, you can have those connections. But I've learned at least from them. Here's one thing I'll tell you, which is it seems like most people, as they get older and as I get older here, like I'm trying to be conscious of this too. You get to the get off my lawn stage, these darn kids stage, right? It's like always this new generation. And I was having a conversation with a fellow VP of sales recently where it wasn't necessarily on the sales topic, but it was the same thing of these darn kids, right? And you see this on LinkedIn all the time. The people have changed. They don't want to work. They don't want to this. They don't want to that. And it's like, what's funny about that? I could go grab some quotes from Socrates, and it's literally the same thing. So who do you think's off on this one? Is it maybe you, or is Socrates right that how many I don't know how old Socrates was, whatever years that was going on, but it's like that perhaps that's a developmental experience that I have out there rather than the new kids. I think there's also, I say one thing. Here's the second thing. Those who can like understand the differences in the next generation and can adapt and understand that the needs are different, the values are different, and adjust accordingly are going to rule the world. Like that's where it's going to come down to. So it's not on them to bend to your will. Oh, by the way, who created this? Right? Oh, is the folks in front. The folks in front of the line created the behaviors in the back of the line. So why don't we acknowledge that and figure out a better solution?
I think you're so right, because I think all through time, the people that can understand other people, can motivate other people, can galvanize other people, they're always the people that are going to do well, because in every generation, there's going to be people who really want to work hard and really want to get stuff done, and people who don't. Like, it's human behavior and human nature. So you're so right. It's really about how do you take what you're given and work with it to create something excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, like, there's spending your time and attention on, in the same way that, I want to hire people that I want to work with. Like, yeah, if you just take any subset of the population, you can go, well, I don't like this population because that, right? That particular reason or anything like that. Peyton Mills is one of the people, shout out Peyton Mills. Peyton Mills is a vice president now. I hired him 10 years ago, something like that, whatever. So Peyton coming out of college, you can just tell. Like, I hired him almost immediately because you can just tell
He is
when
going to be a
some
stud.
people have that drive and they're going to be something. My job is to maybe help accelerate. I'm going to grease the skids here to help you go a little bit faster, to avoid some of these mistakes, to share some stories and some insights. And because he's that kind of person that's going to listen and also then try to apply that himself and like not let anything get in his way, beautiful example of exactly the kind of folks that I like working with.
What are some of the commonalities that you've seen along through those types of people that you like to work with?
Curiosity and drive. Like, it comes down to those two things. Are you really genuinely interested in this problem that we're trying to solve, in this solution that we happen to have, in like what's going on the other side of the phone? And are you willing to do something about it? Are you willing to take action? Because like, you can consume all the content in the world. I got to read this book before I make that call. And it's like, no. Like, you have to take action. Action is where everything happens. At least in here is where it happens, where things start to change for yourself. So I'm one of those people that, like, I have lots of different hobbies. I'm interested in lots of different things. It's very difficult to stay focused on those things. But I'm also driven in each one of them to like, and curious about how can I change this? How can I change that? I'll give you a great example. You familiar with wizard skating?
Only because of you.
Well, that's only because we did our pre-talk about that. So wizard skating, for the folks at home who might not know about it, in the 90s, everybody was rollerblading, and then a joke killed it, and you can go do your research on that. But wizard skating was invented by those guys and gals from the 90s who were doing those aggressive skating and stuff, and now their knees are giving out. Like, they can't jump 4 stories off a building down a half pipe anymore. I'm not giving any good examples, but anywho, so now they're doing this thing called wizard skating, where you noticed if you skate a lot, you got 4 wheels generally, and your front and your back wheels wear out at a faster rate than the 2 middle wheels. And what that creates is called a rocker, right? And you can think about, you got 3 different positions now: the front 2, the middle 2, and the back 2. And you can actually balance on those using your skates, and it allows you to do these kind of flatland, swivel, spin, like very interesting moves where you're not jumping off the fence anymore. You're not grinding down the rail, but you are doing really cool dance kind of moves. So I, like everybody else, right, I'm searching for skates because my kids are slow on their bikes and I want to be able to get my exercise in and all that stuff. So I'm searching for skates. I buy the skates. You buy them online because you want to get good skates, and now the fit horrible. I got these big, wide hobbit feet, right? They're hairy and they're very wide. So I start searching, what are these wide skates? And like everybody else, I stumble upon Leon Bassin's Wizard of Wall Street. And you start watching these moves for 20 minutes and you're just captivated. You're like, what the hell is this stuff? I want to do that. And so you buy the Wizard framing, you buy the Seba CJ12 primes or whatever it is. And you got these wide skates now, and you start doing it. And what I thought, I'm like, I'm a natural skater. I've been doing it. I was skating 4th grade and 5th grade to school every day. I remember, it would wear down to the nub of the plastic on my skates because I didn't know how to replace them or anything. So it's like, you wear it down to the soft. So I started doing it, and I would just like watch Leon, and then I go try to do it. And I sucked. I was not good at all. I did that for like 6 months. I made zero progress. So I'm like, you know what? I want to figure out how to do this wizard thing correctly. I want to look cool like everybody else. And also, like, I'm just frustrated that every time I try to practice, nothing cool happens. So I started, I went to the wizard skating website, and they've got tutorials, like little drawings. This is how you're going to start. And it's like really dumb stuff. Like, start like this. And it's just like a dude, and he's just like skating forward. I'm like, that's stupid. And then the next one's like, oh, you're going to do a tree. And a tree is just like skate on one foot. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't want to do that stuff. But you know what? Maybe that's a good warm up for me. I'll start to do the trees and they call it the Predator One, right? Just being on two skates and they're leaning on your back and all that. And a funny thing happened, which is that after I started focusing on those basics and something I didn't consider was like my balance, like really where the balance of my feet went, as soon as I started doing that, it unlocked one of the fundamental moves, which everybody knows is the gazelle, right? It's this kind of like very quick swivel pivot that you do that takes you from front to back or back to front without your skates leaving the ground. And I was always like picking them up and doing it. But it was once I had the balance down of the basics that I was able to unlock these more advanced things. So I felt like an idiot for spending 6 months just like looking monkey see, monkey do. It's like, no, that's not how it works. You need to focus and master the basics, and that will unlock everything else for you. And it's the same thing with sales, right? You need to be able to pick up the phone and dial them up. Like no AI sales training, no script, like no whatever is going to make you good, but for the action of focusing on the basics of what you need to do. Now each, you can look at that multiple layers for each phase of it, discovery and pain identification and the actual cold call and the script you want to use, the opener, like there's a lot of layers to it. But focusing on the foundations, the fundamentals, like that's where the advanced things come. That's where all the fun comes from. And now I can do this and like show off and feel good about it. And it's effortless, right? I don't think about it anymore. It's not like 6 months ago. It's in the next 12. So that was a good reminder of like, oh, that's right. We want to focus on the basics always when we're learning new things.
What would you say are the basics? I know you've mentioned like a couple. What would you say are the basics of sales?
Basics of sales, basically solving the problem, like understanding the problem from the customer's point of view and presenting a solution. I guess there's three things. One, identifying the problem. What's actually happening in the business that is causing them either to be on this call or to be open to having a conversation about it. Two is being able to present a solution that will help them solve this problem. But both of those things are meaningless unless you can help them buy it. It's the third thing. And there's different levels of like, what it takes to do that at the SMB side versus the mid-market versus the enterprise. And obviously there's a different price tag that goes along with each one of that. And then you just get into the interconnected layers of that of, well, if you can understand that for one person, you need to understand that for the next one too. And there's like the literal business problem, and then there's the emotional attachment to it. And I think what's really important in sales, what took me a long time to learn, but I would say is important to understand now, is that everybody makes decisions based on emotions, right? Positive, negative. People buy things for three reasons, one of three reasons, right? It's pain, gain, fear of pain. That's it. You could simplify every single business reason down to that. So understanding what emotions are attached to that, having high emotional EQ helps you do that, but like recognizing that it's not just, A plus B equals C is going to help you to understand that like it's a multifaceted, multi-layered thing. You're not going to win every single one. I guess that would be the other aspect is like, what are the basics of sales? Those three elements. And then two of being, how do you be successful in doing that? Is using, I don't want to say no as a good thing, because like no means no, and sometimes yes means no. Like let's be clear about that. But at the same time, being okay with it. You got to be the Josh Braun surfer dude, like okay with no, and understand that in your craft, every time you talk to somebody, every conversation you have, every rejection you get is an opportunity to grow. And if you can look at it that way, you're always going to have a great time. If you don't, and rejection is difficult and painful, which it is, like if that's the focus, you're not going to have a good time, and then you're not going to like it. And if you don't like what you're doing, people are going to feel that on the other end of the line, and it's going to lead to more unsuccessful calls and stuff like that. So yeah, that's I guess I would say the basics is the psychology of understanding rejection, and that's the nature of the business and being okay with that, and then just helping people solve their problems and getting things bought when they need help.
Why do you think it took you so long to learn about that, sales, people buy based on emotion? Why do you think it took you such a long time?
Because I've I guess arrogance, it would be the simple way. But like thinking it's just logical. Why would you not, right? Subscribing to myself attributes, which like if I really take a deep look inside of myself, like aren't really accurate. I'll tell you one thing that kind of broke that is the idea that we have no free will. And I don't want to get all like, we don't have to get all philosophical. We can. But like, I sincerely don't believe that in the true sense of the word that most people subscribe to it, which is if I could go back in time, I could make another decision. I don't believe that exists anymore. And that's through study and friends and like communities where I've investigated a lot of this, which isn't to say that I'm right. I'm totally open to being wrong, but I don't think there's a there when it comes down to it, which kind of unlocked the idea for me that like that's the fun part of sales. It's experimenting and understanding those underlying emotions and not manipulating them. But like once you can understand something and adapt to it, well, that's fun. And so like kind of taking those that, you know, looking at the close rates from times past and like applying a new methodology of being like, they don't have any control over what's going on in their mind any more than they do the words that are coming out of my mouth. So if I apply this and I frame it that way versus that and frame it that way, you know, this just comes down to like behavioral economics, like we were talking about earlier too. Like it's amazing. Everybody's out here. Everybody believes they have total control over what they do and what they don't do, what they think and what they don't think. And I guess the easiest example, I said we weren't going to talk about it, but here we are. Easiest example, have you ever taken a test, Tolu? You ever got a question wrong? Why?
What do you mean, why?
Well, if you wanted to get it right, why did you get it wrong?
Interesting. So that's how you see free will, is what you want to happen, choosing to make it happen.
I guess I view it in the sense of the feeling or the sense that you have control. And what I've learned like through my own emotional discovery is like emotions arise from within and they make me say dumb things maybe when I'm having a disagreement with somebody that I strongly disagree with. When how I think of myself is I'm acting logically. I'm acting in the interest of so it's kind of like breaking down that fundamental psychology of people are limited by that which has happened to them and that which they have done in their experience. And again, you don't have control over that at the end of the day, right?
That's
Luck.
interesting.
Yeah. I happened to
That's
hit
interesting.
Richard at the right time, right? And Richard responded. And maybe he responds to everybody, and maybe it was just something there. And then we had a conversation. And like he didn't have a job for me. There was no role that he was trying to fill where I'd be a good fit. But we had a conversation. He's like, you know what? Let's do a podcast. And then we did a podcast. And like luck of the draw, it didn't work, right? Like the tech, for whatever reason, you didn't control that. I didn't control that. It didn't work. And here we are talking again. So like there's a lot of things that we feel like are in our litmus of control, and how we react to things
Interesting.
sometimes is, other times not. But recognizing that is, I guess, a fundamental step. And from my aspect too, like we were talking before, behavioral psychology, like it would be naive of me to think that I'm able to influence folks at scale, like be able to just change one way of how I'm saying something to flip it from a instead of a solution statement to a pain statement, like that would have any impact. And yet it does. Isn't that interesting?
Thank you for listening and watching this Best Bits short. If you like this, tune in next Sunday for our next special part of our favorite episodes. And if you love the main podcast, every Thursday we introduce you to a new virtual mentor so you can hear their career story and answers to the biggest questions in tech. See you on the next episode.